The dark side of guitar mastery is the brutal honesty that you're constantly subjecting yourself to, right? So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what that brutal honesty is and how to use that brutal honesty to get to the next level, okay? I'm going to critically evaluate an excerpt from a practice I did yesterday. And what you'll notice is I'm playing a very small amount of material with tiny little variations. And now some of those variations surprise even me. Now with this specific example I'm going to show you, the challenge here is the feel. I would say that's the hardest part. So when the feel is the focus, you definitely want to simplify what you're doing in terms of your notes, and you just want to focus on finding the rhythms that most effortlessly support the feel and then kind of branching outward from that. So what that means is commit to something very specific, right? So this is where composition and practice completely intersect, because I'm practicing a composition. The composition has specific rhythmic punches on specific chords. I'm talking about harmonic rhythms. And so what I want to do here is nail the harmonic rhythms as clearly as possible while deepening into the groove. Because what am I thinking about here? I'm thinking about when I play this with the band, there's going to be a feedback loop of groove. I want to get super deep into that so that we're all feeding back that deep sense of groove. And here's the deeper insight here. Both members of my band, Gregory Kuska Tsimbides and Antoine Pellegrin, what I'm saying is that anything that I am going to do as the leader of that band, right, that ensemble, I better be locked all the way deep on really subtle levels. I don't need to do a whole lot because I got great people supporting me, but what I do, I need to do it exactly flawlessly, okay? That's the mastery part of what I do. I am not allowed to make any mistakes. It's just not acceptable. So this is the dark side of being a guitar master here. You gotta really get in the work here. And I'm like, I might as well make a YouTube video out of this. Okay, here's the first thing I noticed. You probably noticed it too. What the actual f am I doing? I know that I'll start to settle it down. I'll start to kind of normalize and get more close to that basic, but like, you gotta calibrate here. Okay, there you go. Now it's becoming clear. I want to just go ahead and play the basic iteration again to get that deep. Now you see what I'm doing. Okay, pay attention to what I'm doing against that, right? there's a lot. Like I could stop at every nanosecond. So it's a 4-bar phrase, and it's literally the same riff every measure. And now you're starting to hear that harmonic rhythm that's moving. And let's actually just put that harmonic rhythm under a microscope, because that is funny. One of these classic things, I wrote this song a long time ago, and I only recently accepted what the actual chords are. F major 7 right here, to E major 7, to B minor. Right, and so like the basic riff version, right, just playing the major thirds, right, classic guitar double stops. But if you want to blow out that harmony, you got those major 7s, like this. And you could also see this voice leading. I do this in the practice, right? This major 7, E major 7, where the major 7th of E is the major third of the key we're in, which is B minor, but now it's got that major third. So check that major third to minor third. All right, so I'm showing you now exactly what's going on. I'm going to expand on it here. All right, I find right now is a good moment to actually give some more context here. Let's talk a little bit more about the goal of this practice. So this is what we call performance practice. I'm going to be playing this as a solo section, okay? So I am preparing to do that. I definitely feel like I'm finding flow right away, but when I remember back to starting this, and you always remember the beginning, you know, you press record on your recording device, and you always remember the beginning, because pressing record is where you're like in, you know, the real world, right? You have to switch so quickly into like infinite creativity awareness just from pressing record, you know what I mean? It's always a big leap. So at the beginning of recording a practice, I find that's the hardest time to drop into the flow. And I find that if you're not judgmental about what you play, you'll find it really, really quickly. And then you'll start to transcend good and bad and judgments, and you'll just go deep into that rhythm, deep into that purpose, right? You're serving a purpose. Like my goal is to lay that foundation that's going to feed back in the live performance of just this groove, echo, undulation by simply just playing the subdivisions with conviction and accuracy. But I would say conviction more important than accuracy, because accuracy can only really be defined by conviction. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's keep going. Here's what's interesting. My guitar is not out of tune. I am playing sometimes out of tune though. That is a deep level. We could talk about that for ages, but just the idea that like you could have your guitar perfectly in tune, but because of the way that you're fretting a note, it won't sound perfectly in tune. And if you have a really pitch sensitive instrument, you might find that if you're too tense when you're playing that instrument, if you're holding too much tension, you'll play it out of tune. I'm classically guilty of that. That's actually one of the main things I'm listening for in this practice. And so far, it's happening a bit, but it's like kind of to be expected. Back to the idea of like, this is still the beginning of the flow. I'm probably only like 2 or 3 layers deep, but I'm going to get like 10 to 13 to 15 layers deep, you know, within another 5 to 6 minutes of this practice. So let's keep going. Okay, so like now I'm trying to dig a little bit deeper here. I was messing around with that voice leading. That's exactly what that big trigger was. That doing this shit. Right, I'm just finding that all those little bluesies, but voice lead it. like switching hard from that jazz to that blues. That's what's going on there, right? So I'm finding that, but it's a little loose and it's tripping me out. It's tripping me out. Even those sounds, it's like I need to acclimate my ear a little bit. So yeah, I think I'm about to get a little like wonky here. Let's see, we're going into like wonky land. Let's check it out. That was a nice little spot there. I was rushing and then I found a settling point. So I think one of the things is I'm still rushing a lot. You'll see that. You'll see that. Notice, listen for the rushing. You'll be like, oh, that's what that is. That's when the magic starts to fade. You know, like it's all magical when I'm just like pasting those rhythms. That's the alchemy of magic, right? But if I'm kind of like rushing the rhythms, I lose out on the alchemy. And I don't think I've ever even dragged enough, period, in my life. I don't know how to drag. So I'm still trying to figure out how to not rush. You know what I'm saying? Maybe if I start focusing on dragging, I might not rush as much, right? Oh man, there's a lot of meat on the bones right there. But I think you hear the rushing. You can hear, as soon as I'm rushing, the whole thing just starts to fall apart, like harmonically, like my ideas disconnect. So this is what I'm learning from this moment. I'm going to take this all the way to the bank. Everyone watching this, take this all the way to the bank. If you just focus on playing in the middle of the groove, everything is going to be fine. Because what you're starting to see here is like, I'm not even using that much different language, right? If we really break it down, like what am I actually using? I'm using this B Dorian, right, on the minor tonic chord. Like blues Dorian. And then on the F major, I'm playing F major 7 type stuff. Right? And then on the E major, parallel down a half step. That's it. I'm only playing those 3 things. So what I'm saying here, my point in saying that, is that you don't need a whole lot of crazy, endless vocabulary. Because all you're trying to do is just pace the middle of that groove. And so you don't need a whole lot of different material to do that. Like each individual note that I'm playing, whether it's an open string or a fretted note, or if it's a chord, or if it's a double stop, all of those things are just rhythms that I'm just gonna paste. And I remember what they all sound like from practicing them and researching them and knowing from experience, right, like nuanced macro experience, that this song in particular has a groove that you cannot take for granted. You cannot take it for granted. There have been examples of me in practice taking it for granted, sounding very unintentional and very sloppy. But this groove has so much power. And so I can just research how to get into that groove, right? That's what I'm doing here. All right. I mean, come on. Now I'm finding it. It took, what is this, like almost 4 minutes? I've been playing and now I'm finding comfort. The variations are natural. Any discrepancies, mistake. Any discrepancies between my intention and what actually came out are not even affect. I'm almost transcending that whole duality right there. I don't even think I have expectations at this point. I'm just finding, you know what I'm remembering? Here's the key. What I'm remembering right here in this moment is I'm remembering that my band is going to be grilling everyone while I'm just doing this. They're going to be playing the most funkiest, legendariest, deep-seated shit you've ever fathomed, while I'm just playing this like the funkiest, hardest shit you've ever not considered. And so I'm starting to leave space. Right? Imagining what they're gonna do. See what's going on there, right? Watch out for the out of tune. Watch out for those out of tunes. I'm going for those really specific chord voicings, right? Hit those major sevens. First time I hit that major seven on the F was super out of tune. This one, that's the one I was just going for. Totally botched it, totally missed it. But it's because it's so dense, right? You're coming out of this B, like this kind, right? B minor. And then you go to this F major 7. It's perfect, but it's like, whoa, you don't hear that one all the time, right? So my ears had to acclimate, and honestly, this is where I'm digging deep into the language here. I didn't used to play chords like that on these tunes, you know what I'm saying? And just to go a notch deeper here, what I'm talking about is that, you know, I have written a lot of tunes, so they come in different shapes and sizes as I go back through my back catalog and try them again. Like when I wrote them, there's certain knowledge I didn't have. Now I have that knowledge and I infuse it with the previous composition. I mean, that is where we're channeling the spirit of all creation, you know what I'm saying? And that's kind of where I bring up that whole idea with composition. It's like, whether you wrote it or somebody else wrote it, doesn't matter, you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna arrange it. And so this practice, this is arranging, and this is also, of course, getting that groove really, really deep locked in. So yep, there you go. Okay, so this is it. I forgot to mention that I end up going into the whole song after this, right? So I just played the solo section on repeat, that simple little deep groove solo section. And what I just started doing, what you just heard, is actually me going into the in head of the tune, right? I'm going back to the top. So now you're about to hear the actual written composition, like the non-solo. So that's a classic technique where you practice going deep into the solo, and then you can get your shit together enough to play the whole form after you've already like, you know, really dug deep creatively, and you're kind of like a little exhausted mentally, you know, at that point, kind of, right? But it's like, nope, you better not mess up the out head. You better play the out head better than you played the in head. You know what I mean? Like the in melody as opposed to the out melody. The out melody's got to be dynamite, right? So I just started playing that. Classic practice, right? Because as if I'm gonna play like 6.5 minutes of improvisation on the live show, right? On the live gig. Like, no. Of course, I'm probably not going to play that long of a solo, but the point is in the practice, I'm trying to carve out all kinds of vocabulary that I can use. And I want to become really, really familiar with the vocabulary so that by the time I bring into the band, I have 1,000,000% conviction in the material, which makes it easier for them to do what they're best at. So now let's listen to the whole out head and see, got to critically evaluate it here. Wow. Okay, I gotta stop. I'm playing the melody right now, but once again, I am skating out on thin ice. Skating out on thin ice. Anyone who's seen us play Future Punch is like, whoa, kid. But you can hear it. You can hear. I love it actually. It's just wow. You know, if I'm just being real, it's like I have not heard myself play like with that level of like expression on that tune ever before, which makes sense because I haven't played it in years. You know what I mean? Like it's from the back catalog. Like, you know, we don't play all the songs, you know, we only ever have like maybe 15 songs in rotation, you know what I mean? And that's a lot, right? So this one, you know, I'm coming back to it and I'm like, wow, you know, I've gotten a lot better since the last time I played this tune, like way better. I didn't have any of that 16th note triplet fluency, even like 3 or 4 years ago. That's true. That's honestly true because I cracked mother universes of technique in the past like 3 to 4 years. Basically post-COVID shut-in stuff, I cracked technique that I never even thought I would ever understand, like Holdsworthian levels of technique. And I think that's what you're seeing with these 16th note tripleted ideas. They're very economical. I'm totally leveraging the fretboard mastery stuff. You guys already got the free course. This is fretboard mastery and practice. I mean, 100,000%. Going back to the way I'm playing the tune, I like how I'm interpreting the melody because my band would completely understand. You know what I mean? They would understand everything that I'm doing right here. So that's good. That's good. They would play off that. If anything, they're all watching this video now thinking he's playing too many notes, but it's okay. We understand what he's doing, but like, and the accuracy is good, right? That's a good thing. My band is definitely thinking right now that the accuracy that I'm doing is perfect. They can play off it. When I was rushing, that would definitely piss them off. Do not rush ever, but it happens sometimes, but not, I'm trying to get rid of that. I'm trying to just settle deeper into that groove, find more comfort in that deep spot of the groove. All right, let's see what happens in the next part of this video because I'm going to play the B section, which is a sick riff. I think I'm probably going to botch it the first time though and lose the whole thing. The whole thing's about to collapse. That right there was the mistake. Lost concentration of that form. That was the part of the form that I have not practiced. That's the one we got to work out. So how do we work it out? All right, let's switch it over. All right, we're going to jump the track into the new reality. Here we go. 3, 4. actually technically made what I might call a fatal mistake there, but in the moment I realized that that actually wouldn't ruin the performance if I did that. So you know what's going to make it harder and make it better and deeper is if I tap my foot instead of using metronome, right? Metronome makes it easy. This is good. I tap my foot. 3, 4. Yes. Wow. Good. Congratulations. You know, I'm sure that was very, very, very helpful for you to see. So obviously we're preparing that for the GSM Mastermind on October 4th. We're detonating this sucker. It's about to be sick. We're going to announce the food. We're going to announce all kinds of things about this event over the next couple of days. You can learn all about the GSM Mastermind in the link mentalitymusic.com/GSM Mastermind. Now, if you want to work with me directly and you want to get my actual guidance, well, guess what? We have the best deal of all time going right now. We're calling it the last lesson you'll ever need. Now, this is a one-on-one lesson with me, recorded, okay? Now, we're going to go through my methodology, okay? So, understand. If you want to take that, I'm going to install a mentality of musical mastery in your brain in that one lesson. That's why it's the last lesson you'll ever need. Because once you have that lesson, you will know without a shadow of a doubt, unequivocal clarity, exactly what steps you need to take to climb to the top of Mount Everest as a guitarist. The last guitar lesson you'll ever need includes the Ultimate Jazz Blues Mastery course. It's a bundle deal, okay? So you can learn all about that at mentalitymusic.com/last lesson. All right, we'll see you on the call. Look forward to working with you. Look forward to blowing up your awareness. You know what I'm saying? Prying open the old third eye of music. It's for people who need to become musically enlightened. Now, just to be clear, my method is 100% based in what I call the jazz mentality. See, what you got to understand here is that jazz is not a style, it's a mentality. And what I'm going to teach you is the mentality of jazz, and ultimately that's the mastery mentality of music, right? Jazz is the mastery mentality of music. It's the fluency of music. Jazz is the best, most straightforward framework. There are other frameworks, but jazz is the most straightforward. Anyone can understand the whole concept of playing jazz standards. The whole concept, right? We're starting to see that jazz standards are not limited to the style of jazz. They provide us material to build vocabulary in, right? They're like context. It's like, oh, here's this jazz standard. In this jazz standard, you can build all this material, right? All this language. That's exactly what I was showing in this practice, right? It's a small little chord progression I'm working with, but I'm just building out tons of vocabulary. And notice, I only have 3 different chord changes in that little practice I was doing here. Versus a jazz standard, right? We talk about, you know, V scale, right? V0 is like 3 different chords, 2 bars, right? V0, very easy, right? But it's still like 3 chord changes. You got to know them all the way deep, right? V3, you're at, 12 bar jazz blues, right? That's why I have the whole Ultimate Jazz Blues Mastery course, because V3 is an excellent place to reach over the course of like a 6-month period, because once you understand everything at V3 and you're playing jazz blues with limitless fluency, I'm talking about this thing. What I just did is a training simulation. And that training simulation is teaching me musical mastery or musical invincibility. It's teaching me the mentality of musical fluency, like transcending mistakes, transcending good and bad. Just like when I'm speaking, just like when you're speaking the English language, you are not thinking, did I just say it good or did I just say it bad? You're only thinking, do you understand me? That's all you're thinking. If you start to approach music that way, do you understand me? you're better than everyone else. They haven't even figured this out. Instrumentalists haven't figured this out. That's why you have this overly complex, unnecessary, like nerdy approach to playing guitar. But then there's also people who have really just kind of cracked the simplicity of it. And when you watch my lessons, you're seeing that simplicity, but applied at a fully aware jazz level, right? Not everyone has comprehensive jazz awareness. Back to the V scale, very few people are at V10, V11, V12, V13 levels of awareness. You know what I'm saying? And for that reason, everyone is looking in the wrong place for the complexity, right? They're looking for the complexity in playing more scales, more notes. Nope, the complexity is in the tunes, right? And the tunes really don't require you to understand a whole lot deeper than triadic voice leading and chromatic approach. So if what I'm saying is making sense to you, you definitely want to go mentalitymusic.com/last lesson, because that includes the entire 4.5 hours of Ultimate Jazz Blues Mastery. Basically, I'm going to show you every single skill that you need to take the Ultimate Jazz Blues Mastery and just blast all the way off into V10, V13, V15, V19. So this is probably the best deal going right now. Now, one thing you got to consider, probably the deepest cut of them all, is that when you get Ultimate Jazz Blues Mastery, guess what? You get access to the course community, which is Systems for Creation on WAP. That's where we host that course right here. That's where we have the weekly support call. We've been doing this for like 21 weeks. We have 21 recorded archive master classes on mastery of music. It's literally one of the deepest cuts of all time. I don't think you fully fathom it if you haven't checked that out, because that's nuts. So if you want to learn about that, that's mentalitymusic.com/ultimate jazz blues mastery. So I'll have all those links in the description, and I'll see you next time.
These are the keys to the Lamborghini.